This is not gonna work for me. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca. This is Rebecca Eats Books. Today we're doing a tag. This is the 20 questions tag. I was tagged by the amazing literary Iggy. Love you, Ig. This tag is all about being self-indulgent and talking about yourself. Get excited. You woke up this morning, you were like, I want to hear 15 minutes of Rebecca just really talk about herself. That's what I want this morning. You're welcome. So here we go. Let's get into it. Question number 1. How many books is too many for a series? This is a personal question. I'm not a huge series reader. I think that there are people who are really into science fiction, and there are these great world building, large in scope stories that take many books and do it really well. I don't read a lot of those, but I imagine if I did, I would want as many books in the series as possible. Some series I have enjoyed, obviously the Neapolitan Quartet, which has 4, and I loved it so much that I wish there were 1 million. There is the Gilead, also 4, although some are much stronger than others. I'm not sure that we needed the 3rd or the 4th. How many books is too many for a series? I don't know. If you can write more than 1 book on the same topic, kudos to you. I'm impressed. Keep up the good work. I don't think we're gonna do this. Yeah. Question number 2, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Cliffhanger sounds like part of a plot, and I don't really do plot. So, not for me. Just not my cup of tea. It's not the cliffhanger itself, it's the cliff from which to hang, you know? If there is a plot from which you can lead me to have a question, then already we're in the wrong territory. Okay. Question 3, paperback or hardcover? Paperback, for sure. Nobody likes a book jacket. I mean, they do look nice on your shelf. Hardcovers are annoying. Book jackets are the worst. I do kind of like when you get a hardcover out of the library and, you know, they've done that like cellophane situation so that the book jacket is permanently connected to the book and it makes that like sound when you open it, and that's kind of fun. You know, you just get to really announce to the world, I'm reading a book. I like to carry a book in my bag wherever I go all the time, and hardcovers are really annoying for that. Also, I love a wear and tear of a book. This is controversial, but I am into like a well-read book. I love a book that is beaten up and had coffee spilled on it and written in and dog-eared. Paperbacks are where it's at for that. You can tell on a shelf full of paperbacks which ones were read once and which ones were read quickly and put back, which ones were savored and dissected and passed on to friends and shared with loved ones. It's harder to tell those things with a hardcover book. They don't show their wear. All right, number 4, favorite book. I reject this question on principle. I think that if my answer to this question is not changing frequently, then I'm not reading enough or evolving enough, or my answer to this question changes all the time. There was definitely a time at which my response to this question would have been Department of Speculation by Jenny Offal. Maybe today, this week, my favorite book is Blueberries, which you've never heard me talk about, by Elena Savage. I don't know, before I was exposed to some really great genius women and I was in college, I had lots of male-centric favorite books. Like, I don't want to say, it's embarrassing. And I like that the answer changes frequently because not only am I reading more, my perspective on books changes all the time, and also like I become a different reader all the time. I get different things out of books. So I'm changing, more books are coming out. There's just too much goodness out there to have a static answer to this question. Personally, if you have a favorite book, that's cool. I want to know what it is, but that's not me. That's not my vibe. All right, least favorite book. This I can get behind. Perhaps the worst book that I have read. For me, the least favorite book I've read in recent years was Where the Crawdads Sing. I should have known, right? I should not have bothered. But talk about hype. This book was everywhere. Everyone in the world read it. I don't like to have an opinion on a book when I haven't read it. Also, at the beginning of the Pan ED, the libraries were closed for a little bit, bookstores were closed, freaking out about my book supply. I did not yet have a Kindle. And so a friend I work with and I decided we would do like a doorstep drop off. So I picked 4 books from my library and she picked 4 books from hers, and this was in her pile, and she left them on my doorstep. So I read it and I hated it. The writing is bad, the plot is bad, but also like this book is written by a woman, has a female protagonist, and would not pass the Bechdel test. It is wrapped up in tropes of like freedom, wild woman, girl, independent, lives off the earth, takes care of herself, but like all she thinks or talks about is men. We also know I just do not do romance. My husband's a lucky man. Number 6, love triangles, yes or no? Not a huge romance person, but I think that love triangles can be great because relationships are interesting. So if it's not about romance, but it's about relationships, I think that's great. In fact, I'm pro love of all shapes. Love trapezoids, love pentagon, love rhombuses, love parallelograms. Sure, why not? Again, the content of the book is less important to me than the writing, so a great writer can tackle love of any shape. Number 7, most recent book you couldn't finish. I don't often DNF. I had a DNF last week or the week before, and it was Last Summer in the City, which is an Italian book from the 1970s that I did not think aged well. It was just being published in English for the first time, and it's a pass. Don't bother. Don't go there. So I DNF'd that. The last book I remember DNFing before this is a booktube darling that everyone loves, Gingerbread by Helen Oyemi. I'm not giving up on that forever. I wasn't expecting the magical realism vibes. I read a few pages and I felt like this is not the vibe I'm in today, right now, and maybe I'll come back to it. So it is sitting on my TBR. It's not a forever DNF, it's a DNF yet. Number 8, a book you are currently reading. Also don't do this often, but I'm currently reading 2 books. One is a fast-paced fiction and one is a collection of essays, so I think that they go well together. I'm reading Coventry by Rachel Cusk. I've read some of these essays where they were previously published, but I've never read the collection as a whole, and I'm really enjoying it, of course, duh, it's Cusk. She has 3 nonfiction books besides Coventry: Aftermath, Last Supper, and A Life's Work, and I've read Aftermath and A Life's Work. I've not read Last Supper, but I probably will one day get around to it when I'm feeling a little bit of Cusk withdrawal. The other book I'm reading right now is Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, a young Irish writer. This is her first novel. It's good. I like what she's doing. There's some cool form stuff. There's some breaks in time stuff. This book does something really clever where the chapter count keeps starting over. There's like chapter 1, 2, 3, and then chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chapter 1, 2, chapter 1, which is clever about like restarts. The last book that you recommended to someone. I recommend a lot of books on here all the time. I recommend Blueberries on this channel 6 times a day, and I also do that in my real life 6 times a day. I recently talked about it, really hyped it. I went to a bookstore with my friend. She asked about it. They didn't have it, so she had them order a copy for her. And so my hope is that I've now recommended it to her, and then this bookstore will start stocking it, and then everyone in the Bay Area is gonna get really into Blueberries, and I will have recommended it to a major metropolitan city. That seems reasonable, right? I also recently recommended to a friend Priest Daddy. Got a text from her that she was laughing her little tuchus off, which is what you want to hear, so I'm pleased about that. Oldest book you've read by publication date. Canterbury Tales. The Bible. I would say the Bible. Gilgamesh. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Newest book by publication date. Definitely read some ARCs recently, some advanced release copies. Second Place by Rachel Cusk comes out next month. Oh, Lisa Tadio's book comes out in June. Animal by Lisa Taddeo, June. Number 12, favorite author. Hard, but there's a few here we could go. Rachel Cusk, Otessa Moshfegh, Jenny Offal, Maggie Nelson, love Maggie Nelson, Elena Ferrante, Marilyn Robinson. These are all women I love. I've read multiple of their books, not just 1 or 2. If they publish anything, I will seek it out and eat it up. They're so smart. 13, buying books or borrowing books? Both. Since the Ramona virus, I've been much worse about buying books. I used to be much better about borrowing. I work on a college campus and not far from the library, so I used to place orders and walk over on my lunch break and pick up 10 books at a time. They had whatever I wanted, or they would order whatever I wanted from an interlibrary loan situation. So I was a library queen for a few years in this job, but I have not been working from campus since last March. So I've been doing my local library, which is also walking distance, but its selection is not as good. And so I've been buying more. I'm also getting much better at knowing what I am gonna love. I'm getting better at knowing which books I'm likely to love and want to keep and share with people and possibly revisit, and those are the ones that I'm more likely to buy. Number 14, a book that you dislike that everyone loves. Love this question. Please, where do we begin? First of all, I just Shadow Over Real Life. Got some heat for that one. I just didn't love it. Everyone loved Real Life. Interestingly, I think in my pre-booktube life, I would have seen a book that everyone loved and not loved it, and then been like, I'm a weirdo. And now I get interesting comments from people about like what I'm missing, and it does make me rethink my take on it. I have thought a little bit about what I missed in Real Life. I mean, I still didn't like it, but now I sort of understand why. Some other books that everyone loves that I didn't like. I cannot get behind Brit Bennett. I've read now both of her books, The Mothers and The Vanishing Half, and I really didn't like either one. They were just way too plotty for me, way too dramatic. Also, less. Andrew Schonker won the freaking Pulitzer. The Pulitzer is a joke. I did not like that book. I felt like if it had been written by a person who identified as female, it would never have received what it had. But it's like when men wash a single pot and people are like, he's a hero. It's like this guy wrote a book about relationships and people are like, give him the Pulitzer. Wouldn't have been doing this for 100 years and you think it's junk. Okay, so that's my problem with the Pulitzer, not the book. I didn't enjoy the book though. I brought that book on a backpacking trip. It was the only book I had, and I carried it 100 miles across the Alps. And I was so mad at myself. I kept trying to trade. Every night when we stopped in different camps, I would be like, does anyone have a book and want to trade with me? Oh, another one that I really couldn't get behind that everyone loved is anything by Celeste Ng. Now I know that she's a plot writer, and I just didn't really understand my affinity for cerebral, angsty books at the time. I know just so much more about my taste now. I would probably never have picked those up. Question 15, bookmark or dog ears? Dog ears, all about dog ears. I like when a book looks loved and used. I think it's interesting to see how long I sat and it held my attention in between readings. I don't want to futz with a bookmark. I'm just gonna misplace it or lose it. Just added stuff. I like a big dog ear when I'm putting the book down for the day. And I like a little dog ear that stays when I'm marking a passage I like. Yeah, I'm all about destroying books. Sorry. 16 is a book you can always reread. This one's hard. I want to do more rereading than I have done. I think a lot about books that I've read and enjoyed and thought like, oh, I really want to reread that. I think I would get so much more out of it than I did the first time. But then I think about all the great books out there that I haven't read yet and I can't bring myself to do it. So I don't do a ton of rereading. I do love to reread Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. I've also reread Department of Speculation by Jenny Offel. I like to reread a short one, because I know that I won't feel guilty about the amount of time I'm spending on it and not on other new books. So I pick up, something I know that is a quick read, and you can read Department of Speculation one sitting. Number 17, can you read while listening to music? I can. I don't seek it out. I don't put music on at home when I read, but I like to bring a book with me wherever I go and read, in small snippets here and there in waiting rooms and buses and coffee shops, and I read in the car while my husband listens to music if we're driving out to a hike or something. So yeah, I can tune out music for sure. Number 18, one POV or multiple? I love an experimental form. If you do it well, if you can do multiple POVs well, then I say more power to you. Do something weird and funky. Let's get weird. I wouldn't say just do it to do it. If you have a reason for getting a little experimental with form, then I'm all about that. Number 19, read in one sitting or over multiple days. Definitely over multiple days. I want to savor a book. I have read books in one sitting before and I always regret it because I feel like it sort of washes over you. I want to be able to read a bit, think about it, come back, read a little bit more and think a little bit more. Yeah, if I read a book really quickly, sometimes that means like I'm not taking it seriously. I'm not valuing it. I mean, sometimes you do it. It's a short book. You're into it and time just gets away from you. But overall, I would prefer to read it over multiple days. Last question. Who do I tag? I don't know anyone who hasn't done this tag. The last person on booktube to do this tag. If you're watching this, you want to do this tag, you haven't done it, and you're like, the world needs to see me talk about myself for 20 minutes. Then you're right. We do. We want to see it. You should do this tag and then you should let me know so I can watch it and talk to you about it. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching me talk about myself. I know this was riveting content. Let me know what absolute trash I spouted. Love you, nerds.